Good morning. This is Father David. We have day 29 of the Winter Pascha, the blood of the martyrs. And we've been talking about the pre-festal celebration of Christmas up to this point, the pre-feast, all of these things. Today, we move into the theme of those days directly after. We have Stephen, the first martyr, who bore witness to Christ as the prophesied one, the one who came as the Messiah and was killed by many of the religious leaders of his own people, and he was the first to be martyred. There is also the slaughter of the holy innocents. We referenced this briefly yesterday when the three wise men departed without telling Herod where the Christ child was. He slaughtered all of those 2 years and younger, all the males 2 years and younger, in Bethlehem and the surrounding region. And of course, this for us is, a mourning of, almost unimaginable cruelty. And these holy innocents, if you've never seen an icon of this, you see all of their, souls as immediate saints there in the presence of God, not forgotten, not lost. But of course, the unimaginable horror of that event is remembered by the church. And what happens when men of power resort to the unthinkable, the unimaginable, to remain in power, to hold on to their temporal positions and prestige. And then he also mentions, Father Tom also mentions in this day, the holy martyrs of Nicomedia, who refused to honor the earthly emperor as king in fidelity to the only king of heaven. So you have, in these days immediately following, a sense in which, as we talked about yesterday, when you have the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the King, the God, coming to be killed and to provide himself as food for the faithful, as the only King, his words that, if they hate me, they will hate you also. And if you would be my disciple, you must deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. That, the church reminds us of this, that his followers turned right around and followed him into death, into the place of death, if necessary. And, this is a calling for Christians to take up our cross, to deny ourselves, and to exhibit the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, and to exhibit it even in the face, especially in the face of those who would have us follow other gods. It's difficult for us today. Not that it wasn't difficult for the saints of old, but there was perhaps a clarity that they had. Father Patrick Henry Reardon sort of halfway jokingly laments, oh, for the days when everyone was pagan. Then at least you had, altars erected to gods, and, you either worshipped with religious cult your god Jesus, or you would worship the pagan gods, or you would worship, Baal or whoever it was. Now, you know, you have religion sort of relegated to its own, particular sphere, uh, and you have other secular pursuits that people would really raise their eyebrow if you ever called it a god or a lord. Um, but today, we have, of course, much in our modern society that would go against the fruit of the spirit that I just named. Um, Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Um, there is a sense in which, on the one hand, self control is absolutely unacceptable for various reasons. Don't you ever put a restriction on me for whatever reason. Don't you dare go around saying that I ought to run my life in this way. I mean, this is on both, at least in America, the right and the left. A sense of, my desire, my individual liberty, my individual identity is my God. I will give up everything in order to, some people are saying, I'll even die so that I don't have to, I'll fight to the death so that no one else will tell me who I am or what I can do. And when Christ comes with a particular vision of what it means to be a human being, whether that is in the beginning God made them male and female, or whether that is, seeing the poor and being moved so with compassion, that, perhaps your life will be disrupted in order to provide for the poor. We have so many that, whether their God is their own identity or whether their God is the stock market, um, and no one infringes upon my personal liberty for the sake of someone else's poverty or suffering. Christ comes with a very different vision. I thank God that we don't live in a country where we are hunted down and killed for our beliefs. And I think, in fact, honestly, if I'm very honest, perhaps this is our own weakness, but mostly I think people look at Christians as oddities, curiosities, irrelevancies. But what we ought to be attending to is a denial of ourselves, is a sense of looking to Christ and saying, if there is anything in me, the way that I see myself, the way that I frame myself, my own identity, my rights. Father Alexander Schmemann often said, Christians don't have rights. Everything is a gift. Everything is given to us by God. But he is the king. We have no rights to speak of. We are called to die to those proud ways in which we would serve our own bodies, serve our own lifestyles, serve our own 401ks, as it were, as a god. And if and when there are aspects of us that we can no longer love, that we can no longer be generous, that we can no longer be open-handed and open-hearted, that we can no longer struggle against broken, sinful urges within us, and control ourselves. Self-control is the fruit of the Spirit. We are called to lay those things down before Christ, but not just merely in slavish obedience. The rule because it's the rule. we're called to really ponder and look at the face of Christ, at the one who gave himself. Our God, and even giving himself in the face of, as a man, he knelt in the Garden of Gethsemane before he went to the cross. That was his work from God to submit himself to. And he begged his Father, if there's any other way, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And he said on the cross, Lord, into God, my Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. There was a trust there. You will not leave me in the grave. You will not abandon me. You will not, this will not be in vain. My struggle is not in vain. My struggle is not forgotten. All of this is done not as what's called a red martyrdom, like Stephen, or the Holy Innocents, or the Martyrs of Nicomedia, who gave their blood, but a white martyrdom, a refusal to give ourselves over to the obedience of, any kind of movement or indulgence, but to recognize that in Christ is our healing. In the face of Christ is our beauty. In the face of Christ is our life. And that we can trust him, that we can place our lives in his hands, and that it is a good thing for us to allow him to shape us and mold us like a potter does to his clay, to make a vessel, a pot, for his use. So, brothers and sisters, let us remember that he who comes to give himself painfully and submissively according to the will of his Father now bids us to take up our crosses, to be disciples, disciplined students, to follow after him, and to allow ourselves to be made not according to our own will and our own images, but according to the will of him who created us, that we would be that we would participate in the beauty and the healing and the revelation of becoming who he would have us to be. For he is good and loves mankind. So may God bless you, and Lord willing, we'll talk to you tomorrow.